Welcome back to New Rockstars. This is a breakdown of The Boys, Season 2, Episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off. I'm Erik Voss. This is The Boys Underground, The Boys after show that still isn't totally sure if Stormfront is a Nazi. They're really slow playing this one, don't you think?
I'm just waiting for definitive proof.
I mean, yeah, she has the hidden Nazi box full of Hitler Youth knives, but like, I don't know. They could underline it a bit more. I mean, as of now, it still seems like we could just be those typical Hollywood types that are reading into things, making everything racist when it ain't, even though this is our natural Florida accent, right?
That's right. Yeah, most of our blood is swamp water. Yeah,
yeah, swamp water and Gatorade. It's the same thing. Yeah. As you can tell, with me to join some thoughts on Vought is the Lamplighter to my Frenchie. I guess that comparison works. Off-screen producer Zach Huddleston, welcome to the show.
Hello, Erik. There's some blood on these hands and on this Zippo.
Hopefully that blood isn't Tommy and Marina. Don't worry. Tommy and Marina will be back soon. Both of them just had other conflicts this week, but they'll be back on the show soon.
Yes.
So this was a pretty interesting episode. A lot of things came together. Zach, why don't you summarize it for us?
Absolutely, Erik. So this was a lot of action this episode. So the boys headed down to the Sage Grove facility that had kind of been teased on Stormfront's emails in the previous episode. There they learned from Lamplighter, past member of the Seven, whom Starlight replaced, that Vought is testing a more stable version of Compound V on human adult subjects, including the body imploder Cindy, who escapes. Lamplighter is a much more sympathetic, empathetic version of the character than the one we got in the comics, and he feels guilt over accidentally killing Colonel Mallory's grandkids before the series started. Frenchie shares that guilt because he lost his hail on Lamplighter trying to save his addict boyfriend Jay, and we learned Frenchie's real name, Erik. Serge.
Serge, you can come right now.
I just thought it was Frenchie. What's wrong with Frenchie as a name?
I mean, we call you American-y all the time.
Yeah, I am pretty American-y. Yeah.
So back at the Sage Grove, not to be confused with the Surge Grove, a breakout among the kind of inmate patients causes Huey to get gravely injured. He gets like impaled by a big old chunk of metal.
Yeah, you know, when characters flip in cars like in Inception, that's not a safe thing, I guess. Sometimes a shrapnel shard will go right into your gut.
It's a good reminder to me to take out all those loose pieces of metal out of my car.
I'm leaving mine in.
Okay, fair enough. To try to save him, Starlight kills a driver, but she feels no guilt over it, which kind of strangely creates a bond between her and Billy Butcher, because they're both cold-blooded in their pursuits. Mother's Milk is almost strangled by the world's longest love sausage. A fetish I didn't realize I had until I witnessed it. Talk about Mr. Fantastic, huh?
Yeah, it speaks for all of us. Uncut. Just interesting. How do you circumcise a snake that big?
Where to begin? That's like a 4-foot skin. Okay. Kind of at one of the climaxes of the episode, Colonel Mallory is convinced to spare Lamplighter so that he can help the team. He's kind of joining up with the boys in some way. Meanwhile, in some subplots, the Deep uses his fish friends to recover a video recording from Flight 37 that Maeve plans to use to blackmail Homelander. But of course, her girlfriend Elena sees the video and doesn't like it. The Deep also tries to recruit A-Train into the Church of the Collective in a really fun scene. And Homelander and Stormfront's violent passion deepens in some real gross, kinky ways. Stormfront reveals to him her Nazi origins, what we were talking about, and what we didn't yet know, that she was the wife of Frederick Vought. She's a legit 100 years old, and she plans to use Homelander to lead a neo-Nazi army in a race war. And of course, Homelander, the egotist and fascist that he is all about it.
Yeah, that's it was an interesting but not all that surprising union between the two of them, because Homelander's been dropping some like veiled or not so veiled kind of superior pseudo-racist stuff from the beginning. So yeah, they've done a really good job bringing these two who started as rivals to see their mutual agreement on a lot of issues, and now of course they're one and the same, and I am terrified.
Yes, I for one was surprised by the Mrs. Vought revelation strangulation. Erik, did you see that coming?
No. I had some theories that maybe she could have been related to him. Maybe she could have been him herself, and kind of a disembodied brain sort of deal. But the fact that they'd be married is an interesting thing because it brings up the question of like, well, then where is he? Or what happened to him?
Yeah, he was willing to experiment on his wife. Do we think he was probably also willing to experiment on himself?
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting questions to come out of this big reveal, and in a very violent, fun sequence. It reminded me a lot of Cabin in the Woods, where they look on all the different security screens to see the melee that's going on, and you just hear screams going on. Who knows how many people died and what horrible ways they died. And I love the reveal of the long tentacle, dick, because I'm thinking Mist. I'm thinking Toad from X-Men Tongue that's dragging someone to their doom, but nah, it's dick.
Of course. On a show like The Boys, it's going to be a dong. Yeah.
It's always dong. Well, let's break down the top 10 big Easter eggs and visual details that you might have missed from this episode, because there was a lot of cool stuff that's kind of hard to notice at the beginning. Let's start with the episode title. It's called The Bloody Doors Off, which, is a reference to a boys comic title. All the episodes of the series are reference to boys comic issues. But the deeper origin of this phrase is Michael Caine's famous line in The Italian Job.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Yeah, that film moment, Zach, to me is like The Boys in a bloody diabolical nutshell, because it's like the encapsulation of the overkill that rings especially true for this episode, in which quote unquote good guys like Starlight, Frenchie, Billy Butcher, they all kill far more heartlessly than usual. It's really a mixed bag of morality, and I think it's going to be very important to how we see the boys going forward. And then, of course, the episode opens and closes with references to the sitcom Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls. Those saucy ladies, they made their own family. You are my Blanche. Angé, you are my Dorothy.
So you're Betty White?
Oh, what a question. Of course I'm Betty White.
And Zach, I'm sure you caught the Golden Girls theme playing at the end of the episode. I think it's worth noting that this is the second time the boys have compared themselves to famous girl groups, of course, after the Spice Girls.
You put them together. They're the goddamn Spice Girls. How do you know so much about the Spice Girls?
Which, it's kind of like a little ironic in-joke by the show that despite their masculine name, they most relate to the qualities of things like compassion, support, sisterhood. Beautifully, that's kind of what sets them apart a little from the Seven.
I'm just disappointed that the writers missed an opportunity to say something along the lines of Golden Girls get it done.
Yeah. Oh, that's gotta. Oh, please bring that back. Now, speaking of like girls get it done with that superhero moment, it's worth noting that Golden Girls is tied to Joss Whedon and his family's history, because his father, Tom Whedon, was a big TV screenwriter as well. He wrote on Golden Girls, which did launch nepotistically Joss Whedon's career as a sitcom writer on shows like Roseanne. That was before Joss would go on to work on things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and of course superhero movies that the boys comment on, citing Joss Whedon by name last episode. So it all comes full circle there. Now, we didn't get any Billy Joel music clues this episode, which is a bummer, but Huey does wear a shirt depicting Billy Joel's The Stranger, and I love how this episode opens with Huey getting sprayed with his ex-girlfriend's blood in the face when they remove her tracking chip, and that shirt later gets soaked in blood. It's just a little reminder that blood that he got coated in while he was debating Billy Joel music with Robin in that opening scene is kind of blood that he'll never be able to escape on the show.
Love and violence forever linked for Huey, huh?
And in that scene, it's not really missable. Frenchie wears goggles just like he's depicted in the comics. Hey, side note, I don't really care about that. Adaptation details are not Easter eggs. It's like, oh, look, Harry Potter has a forehead scar just like he does in the books. Like, if that's going to be your kind of comment, like, oh, it's just like it is in comics, that's not a detail. Don't comment. Okay, fourth detail. Homelander and Stormfront bang in that alley, using the blood of the thief whose skull gets crushed. And there is some fun graffiti if you look around. There's the Homelander Saving America posters. They're defaced with his eyes X'd out. Maybe a reflection of his like blindness to Stormfront's Nazi agenda. There's another tag that reads R.I.P. Spidey, which I don't know if that's like a Spider-Man thing. Obviously, Spider-Man doesn't exist in this universe, but I just thought it was a fun little thing to see. But the cool detail here, notice the line.
Sometimes it feels like the justice system just doesn't work anymore.
Everyone always recording on their phone all the time.
Yeah, Stormfront is the one who's always recording on her phone, something that pissed off Homelander last episode when he was caught on someone's phone. And yeah, it's a recording of Homelander and Maeve from Flight 37 that's gonna be reappearing later this episode. But my favorite part of this, I'm pretty sure that is a CCTV camera recording them in this exact moment in the alley. The skull crush is visible by the angle, but Stormfront smartly rubs Homelander out of sight from the camera. His back is turned to the camera, and then when they it's around the corner away from the camera.
Interesting.
I'm sure she is aware of all recording devices in the vicinity. All right, fifth detail. Mallory talks about Frenchie's history with some of the other supes.
And Cold Snap 2 months ago, Malchemical a month before that. You don't know about those either?
Yeah, Cold Snap, Malchemical, those are supes from the comics. Actually, you can see a Cold Snap poster showing up in Frenchie's apartment. But Mallory mentions a darker entity in this world.
ADX Florence. There's a Supermax in Colorado. They've got the Unabomber, head of the Aryan Brotherhood, all the greats.
That Aryan Brotherhood mention, a little reminder that neo-Nazism is, sadly, alive and well in the United States. Something that definitely comes back at the end of this episode. It makes Stormfront's Nazi reveal even more not that shocking. All right, next detail. In the Sage Grove Medical Center are some more familiar supes. There's Tiny Hero, whom we saw in the Soup Sex Club in the first episode of the series. The Acid Spewer, who has that horrible death, is probably based on Discharge from the group Gee Whiz in the comics. And of course, there's Love Sausage. He's based on the Russian soup from the comics. And yeah, it seems like he dies this episode, which is a bummer because he has a really fun arc in the comics. But in the comics, his dick doesn't stretch out like that. But for comics readers, it might have felt a little ironic to see MM as the one who gets strangled with it. Minor spoiler warning for the comics here. So if you haven't read the comics and you're going to be bummed by learning something, skip ahead a little bit. But in the comics, Mother's Milk gets his name from the fact that he needs his mother's breast milk to survive going forward. And his mom is this like tragically disgusting figure who lives in his basement and grows into this gross blob with her breasts stretching out in a similar tentacle way to the way this dick does that strangles Mother's Milk. So I don't know if it was intentional that it connected that way, but I did think for a second, I'm like, wait, is his mom being kept in this facility and that's what's strangling him right now? But no, that wasn't the case.
There are some questions, right? Like we don't know what his father, the litigious character that's been mentioned at before, why he was suing Voss so aggressively, right? Or how that totally resolved. So interesting.
Yeah, for sure. There's more to learn there for sure. All right, let's talk about Lamplighter, Shawn Ashmore, who I gotta say it again, I love the fact that he's playing this Zippo pyrokinesis guy, which is essentially what his rival in the X-Men movies was. He was Iceman. He was the Cold Snap of that world. Whereas, he has the Zippo now. It's fun little thing. Now, in the past, we learned that Lamplighter was recruited to work for the boys. He was blackmailed with some mystery photos. Now, the angle blocks Mallory's tablet, but there are a few clues that tell us what was on that. There was that red carpet for his Light in the Shadow Journey into Night premiere where he comes off as a ladies' man with a pretty young date, I'll say. Shawn Ashmore isn't that old, but the date is just significantly younger. And then when they make fun of his look, they say that he looks like a baton-twirling majorette, which stings him personally in an interesting way, as if to say, why are you bringing up like a young cheerleader right now? And then it's a Zippo lighter. It says Titty Committee. In an interview, Shawn Ashmore said that his first question when he read for this part was, what are they using on him? What's his dark secret? Well, apparently that lighter connects to some sexual relationship that he had with underage girls. He's a predator. And I'm thinking maybe it was connected to high school cheerleaders based off of that majorette comment. Those photos that Mallory had were of some past sexual encounter he had with someone that was illegal. And that's why he had to step down from the 7.
Interesting. I like your inferences there, Erik.
Okay, really cool detail here. Outside Huey's hospital room, there's a poster with Maeve encouraging people to donate blood, which is now pretty ironic with Maeve as an LGBT person because the FDA, until recently, had issued guidelines prohibiting sexually active gay men from donating blood due to some lingering fears some misunderstandings about the HIV epidemic starting in the 80s. Now, those restrictions have recently been relaxed under COVID, but it is just interesting that the LGBT member of the Seven is now associated with this poster saying, hey, donate blood, except if you're this type of person.
Though that poster might have been hanging on that particular hospital wall for like 5 years. And
Right,
she's
right,
only
right.
been
And
outed recently. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're not saying it's a new poster printed. It's just saying that now poor Maeve probably has to walk around and see the way she's been depicted in the past and be like, oh, I would not make a poster like this now. And also makes you think about this whole time she's been living with this double standard of the way she's being presented versus the way she knows she is on the inside. And it sucks that it's just a little reminder that she's been misrepresented this way. I thought it was interesting how the Flight 37 recording ended with,
I love you. Tell the boys I love them.
This poor guy sending a message of love to his sons, but also he says the boys. It's just, I don't know, maybe a little thing that's showing that, like, the necessary evil of the boys is going to be the thing that brings Homelander to justice, I think, ultimately.
Also, what an endorsement for GoPro cameras that it was able to survive a plane crash and at the bottom of the ocean. Those things are tough.
They couldn't find the black box, but they could find the GoPro.
Well, that's the old joke of I think it's a Seinfeld joke. If the black box always survives the plane crash, make the whole plane out of a black box. We should make a whole plane out of a GoPro.
And lastly, the thing we're going to talk about, to no one's surprise, Stormfront confirming her Nazi heritage. She's got that good old Nazi box, which, I don't know, I have some older relatives who were American GIs during World War II, and then they did like tear Nazi patches off of like German soldiers as like trophies. But like, I think some people find that it's like an American Beauty. They're like, why do you have this stuff? It's like, oh no, we fought on the right side of history and we want to remember, that good fight. But some people collect too much of this stuff. And then you start asking questions, as we see with Stormfront. In that box, if you were to look closely, she's got her Liberty costume. She's also got a German Wehrmacht hat, and she's got that knife, and it's a Hitler Youth knife. It's a field knife that a lot of German soldiers had. It's got that symbol that matches the S of the Schutzstaffel, that's the SS. And her lightning earrings that we've been seeing her wearing this whole time do match that hard angle S shape. Now, Aya does such a good job with this, with that monologue. I hated hearing it, but the way she delivers it is so creepily convincing, of like that she truly believes this stuff. And there was that accent leak that she puts into her pronunciation of proper nouns, like,
I was born in 1919 in Berlin. Heinrich Himmler. And that's Goebbels.
Yeah, despite her evolving American accent over the decades, it makes sense that she would be unable to shake that pride and endearment of those parts of German history. Just a little creepy thing she did that I thought was great. And I just gotta say, Zach, and I know you agree with me on this, I know it seems like everything these days is being framed as like veiled symbols for neo-Nazis. Like you can't make certain hand gestures anymore. You can't have tiki torches anymore. But folks, that is the scary truth of this country. That U.S. flag-draped Homelander immediately making out with Stormfront after learning her Nazi truth is a pretty on-point commentary about how American brand fascism comes from the same dark place that German fascism did. Just because we fought a war against them, I think a lot of Americans have forgotten the history of that, and our history is scarily repeating itself.
Yes, and that I think the scariest part about that ideology is how seductive it can be to certain people, right?
Yeah.
Like if it were universally abhorrent, it would go away and we'd never see it again, right? But because it keeps sucking in different people, especially I think somebody like Homelander, who is very like almost onanistic, right? We saw in that the weird sex scene with Doppelganger, right? Like he loves more than anything Homelander, right?
Yeah.
And so certainly an ideology that's going to raise him up to be like an iconic figure, he's all about it. Oh yeah, I'm your blonde-haired, blue-eyed Superman? Sure, let's do it.
Well, the good news is, despite this whole idea of overkill from the Bloody Doors Off title making us worry about the comparable moral decline between the Seven and the boys, the pure Golden Girls, thank you for being a friend, is the antidote to that evil, Zach. Notice how the way Cindy gets away in the final shot, she does not kill that driver the way Starlight and Butcher killed their driver when they were trying to hitchhike. She gets in the passenger seat. She is victorious, where our boys have not learned to be a good friend yet.
Interesting.
Now, on the question of Cindy, Zach, I'm curious about you. We saw Cindy basically blowing up and popping bodies. Is this confirmation that Cindy was the one who killed Raynor in episode 1?
Well, that's a good question. It's certainly kind of inferring that, though we also saw in this exact episode, there were multiple supes with telekinetic powers, right? There was the guy that Lamplighter incinerated could move like a little ball in the air. So maybe he wasn't as powerful or advanced as Cindy, but who knows how many supes can pop heads. And also that would mean that somehow Cindy, who does not like being locked up in Sage Grove, was able to be transported to a third location, kill Raynor, and then be brought back. Maybe she was drugged or something like that. But that
they did mention there was like a propofol drug that she was given. But if she was drugged like that, would she be able to use her powers to blow up someone's head? I don't know.
Yeah, I also think it's strange. Again, we'll have to figure out why was Raynor killed in that moment, but not Frenchie and Mother's Milk,
right?
Who are also there, right? Why not kill everybody that was there at the time?
Yeah, so it's not a closed case right now. I think it could be Cindy, but it's still kind of an open question. We have some more open questions that we're going to be discussing in just a second, but first we want to thank some friends who helped us make this episode. Our friends at the True Crime Reporter podcast. So do you want to go into a journey of darkness into the mind of the worst sadistic serial killer in Texas history? Well, the new True Crime Reporter podcast reveals how a corrupt parole system released Alan McDuff and how just one day after McDuff walked out of prison, women's bodies started turning up dead across Central Texas. Peabody Award-winning investigative reporter Robert Riggs, the host, the creator of the True Crime Reporter podcast, reveals the inside story of the serial killer described as the devil himself and the only convicted killer to ever receive 3 death sentences in Texas. Holy crap. The 30-year veteran journalist pulls out his reporter's notebooks and law enforcement case files in this 15-episode series premiering on September 28th. The True Crime Reporter is a co-production with Podcast Ad Reps and is their first PAR original podcast. It's also currently in development as a TV series, Free to Kill. So this is an amazing story. You're going to want to check it out. Don't miss this blood-chilling series. Subscribe to True Crime Reporter on your favorite podcast app. Okay, let's move on to some deeper questions we had coming out of this episode. Zach, I want to know from you, now that we know that Stormfront is a straight-up Nazi trying to restart a race war, how does Stan Edgar fit into that plan? Like, is he aware of it? Because he is a person of color. Does he fit into this?
It's a great question, right? And we know that, like, Stan Edgar, from what we've seen of him, and we haven't seen a whole lot, right? Like, he is a pro-Vought guy, right? He worships at the altar of Vought and doing big business and increasing profits and corporate power. Either A, he's seen that he can ride the wave of kind of Nazi-ish fascism to more corporate power, or he doesn't see that part of it, and Stormfront has kind of held the race war aspect of it away from him and just selling him on increased power, more soups, run the world kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, this is kind of a stretch theory, but do you think it's possible that, I mean, we've never seen Stormfront and Stan Edgar in the same place at the same time, I think, but they are connected. Is it possible that Stan Edgar could have the mind or the soul of Frederick Vought?
Ooh, wouldn't that be great? Or we also know shapeshifting is a possibility in this world, right? Like he could have shapeshifted into Stan Edgar, or a weird kind of brain transplant-y, very MODOK-y kind of situation. Okay, and Erik, onto our weekly Black Noir watch. There were just a few mentions of Black Noir. He wasn't heavily featured in this episode. Homelander talked about going off to run lines with Black Noir on the set, which is so funny because he doesn't talk. But in their TV interview, when he and Stormfront are sitting down for a TV interview, they said some stuff about him.
Black Noir is definitely, he's got the biggest ego. Such a team. Under that helmet.
So what do you think this means about Black Noir? Were they just kind of cracking jokes, or does that hint at like a little bit of a personality?
I think it does. I think they were cracking jokes, but they have been very careful to mention or show Black Noir at least once every episode, which is why we do the Black Noir watch. I think it's interesting that they say, how does it fit under the helmet? Her line was kind of obscured by the people talking in that scene. I don't know. I think at the end of the season, we may look back at this moment and be like, haha, they did mention like what it's going to look like when you lift that helmet off. So I think it's going to be just a little moment saying, like, keep an eye on this character, keep an eye on the fact that there's going to be a surprise reveal when we lift that helmet.
Yeah, it's Chekhov's face at this point, right?
Yeah, it really is.
When that comes off, it's going to be a face we recognize or that means something to us.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Chekhov's face.
Okay, next kind of lingering question here, Erik. What does it say about Starlight that she got into being a supe to save lives, but now she feels almost no remorse for killing that driver on the roadside?
Yeah, right? Isn't that interesting that she was just like, it's just another person in our way, you know? And she's even kind of reflecting on that. And that's kind of what brings her and Billy Butcher together, as they both look on the pathetic Huey as just this puppy who's always there for us. It is super interesting that she looks over the child seat. It is just that moment. But it's the same thing that made Huey really nervous back last season when he found out Translucent had kids. And he didn't want to kill him, but he did it anyway. So it's just like, yeah, it's just kind of, they go through these same beats of like, just because someone's a parent doesn't mean that I'm going to lose a ton of sleep over killing them. But I would say killing Translucent is something that still haunts Huey more than it appears to haunt Starlight over killing this guy.
Yeah.
But I want to know from you, let's talk about Maeve now that Elena knows what happened on Flight 37. Do you think it's going to create some tension between the two of them? Is it even going to work on Homelander to be blackmailed?
Yeah, it does seem like she's dug herself in deep, right? Like that's the growing tension of this season. And now we're 6 episodes into an 8-episode season, right? So we're getting to the point where like all the stakes are getting raised. Everybody's in trouble. And certainly her trouble is she feels like her only way of getting out underneath the thumb of Homelander is to use this blackmail tape. But we know like he doesn't respond really well to any kind of threat.
No.
Yeah. So who knows? It does seem like if she were just going to release it to the press, maybe she would have already done that.
I hope that it doesn't lead to a situation where Maeve has to like kill Elena or something like that. That would be really heartbreaking, that just because Homelander found out about it, because it seems like that's where it's headed, right? The moment Homelander found out about Elena, then it's kind of like, I don't feel great about Elena's survival.
No, or Maeve's for that matter.
Or Maeve's,
right?
yeah.
Anybody that's going into direct conflict with Homelander, you have to worry about their safety. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, we keep comparing it to like Game of Thrones, but when you have these shows where there's a lot of warring parties, kind of these moral figures that are in the center of the different warring parties, you really worry about their survival into the next season, because it's like, I don't see a place for you in this world. All right, let's talk about the Fresca. So the Deep recruits A-Train with a Fresca, holds it out the same way Eagle the Archer randomly gave it to him. You know, it's super weird. Obviously, there are connections to the Church of Scientology. We see Alistair Aldana. He's head of the Church of the Collective. He's got a portrait that's framed very David Miscavige with another portrait that seems to be their L. Ron Hubbard. The mansion, clearly based on the Scientology Hollywood Celebrity Center castle that you and I have seen many times when we're waiting in line at UCB and look up and be like, what is going on in there? I hear screaming. And they mentioned a documentary, clearly based on the HBO documentary Going Clear. But weirdly, they're all drinking Fresca at that table in nice goblets. What's going on with the Fresca?
Well, and I've both had and seen a lot of different explanations for the Fresca. One, it's just funny because nobody drinks Fresca, right? All the cool kids have moved on to Topo Chico or other sparkling waters.
LaCroix,
right? Or we're still rocking the Sprites and 7-Ups, right? Who's drinking Fresca? And so it's funnily specific in that way. Then also, like you just mentioned, like it's a clear soda, the Going Clear.
Sure.
It's also if like Church of the Collective is a little bit aligned with like sobriety kind of 12-step ethos, right? It's something you can offer people that's not wine or alcohol. So there's a little bit of that. Like I know like some people when they've gone sober, like they just eat candy constantly, or like they mainline cold brew coffee or whatever, right? It's like maybe there's a little bit of that. Or I've also seen the theory that all Fresca is drugged to make people more susceptible to being recruited into this strange church, which I love the idea that like at the source, all Fresca is drugged. These aren't special Frescas. The entire product line has sedatives in it.
But I'll say it would be very creepy because it is a can of Fresca. It's not like a certain kind like cartons of something that you can clearly just like get, because we found out with like the Russians, you know, they can get a needle and they can get it in a water bottle and you don't know. Okay. But this is like a carbonated can. Once you puncture it, they're gonna know that it's been tampered because it won't get that nice, crisp, fresh carbonation pop and sizzle that it would get otherwise.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. It's freaking me out.
It also could just be the white Nikes of the Heaven's Gate cult, right?
Right. Yeah.
Every cult needs their
the Jonestown Kool-Aid.
Yeah, or playing volleyball for the Nexium cult if you're watching The Vow on HBO.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that series. It's like my new weekly television. I'm like, yes, we'll get some Lovecraft Country and we'll get some nice The Vow.
Some fake scary, some real scary. Just mixing it up.
Yeah. Which one's scarier this week? Well, let us know what you think's going on with the Fresca. I'm sure we'll find out by the end of this season, but let's move on to our kill counts this week.
Okay, well, this was a big uptick, Erik, for kill counts. It's been kind of a slow couple episodes, lots of action, but not a lot of death, but boy, it came in spades this week. So a lot of violence obviously taking place at the Sage Grove Center, especially after that lockdown happened. Now, we tried to count. We were looking at the little security camera footage and whatever. And a lot of the violence, you know, there's tons of people dying, but it's off screen. We hear the screams. We don't know who's dying, who's killing them, what's confirmed. So the kill count's only going to reflect confirmed deaths this week. Okay. Also, who knows when Homelander blows up his trailer? You know there had to be a poor Teamster standing outside, just
some
waiting.
PA.
Yeah. I mean, we've been just loitering on sets before. You just kind of lean up against a wall and then it blows up and you're dead. So
yeah. It's electrical malfunctions. Oh God.
So speaking of Homelander, he comes in with one confirmed kill this week, of course, because he is the one that squishes the head of the robber in the opening sequence before making love to Stormfront. Frenchie also had a confirmed kill. He shoots a security guard at the Sage Grove Center. Though I will say, like, when you see the bullet holes are like black, and I don't know if that's just because there's not enough time for the blood to come out, made me think the guy might have been wearing a bulletproof vest and the gun just kind of knocked him out. But let's say he killed him.
They were in that room for a while. Yes. I feel like he would have been able to be like,
he would have woken up. Yeah. Billy Butcher, of course, kills the EMP supe who escapes the facility and harms Huey. Starlight kills the motorist who pulled out the gun. Love that character actor, by the way. Enjoyed his work on Monk and other shows. Our friend Love Sausage, the Wild Wang, we saw him strangle an orderly with his member. Lamplighter, he killed the telekinetic Tim, that guy from the first sequence, right, who just wanted to talk to his sister, roasted him. Boy, that's all it takes to get killed at Sage Grove, just wanting to talk to your family.
It's so dark. I guess he also mentioned, we know that he killed Mallory's family in the past. We're not counting that in the total this time. Because,
that didn't happen during the episode, or we didn't see it on screen. Kimiko has 2 kills. She kind of stomps the face of the acid-spewing soup, and then she also punched Love Sausage to death. Which, by the way, if your whole power is that you spew acid, how messed up that you yourself are not acid proof.
Yeah, it just becomes acidic the moment it hits oxygen or something. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the physics.
No, I will say there are some parallels to that in the human body, right? Like our stomachs are relatively acid proof, but if our stomach acid even comes up into our throat, it does lots of damage because our throat is not. That's what heartburn essentially is, or acid reflux. Is that part of our body is not nearly as acid proof as our stomach. So
and they have to tell like pregnant women who vomit often not to brush their teeth right after they vomit. They have to like switch it out with water because the stomach acid can eat away at their teeth enamel.
Oh, fascinating. See, The Boys, the most grounded show on TV. Cindy, our favorite Stranger Things knockoff, definitely doing some 11 cosplay. She has somewhere between 3 and 4 kills. You see her kill explode kind of 3 Sage Grove orderlies, and it seemed like one of the people that explode onto a window. We didn't see Cindy do it, but we could probably assume it was her, though she's very nice to the motorist who picks her up hitchhiking, which who's picking up okay, you live in a neighborhood with some kind of mental facility. You see somebody walking down the road barefoot, I'll pick him up. Sure.
Oh, look at that guy in the Michael Myers mask. Why don't you hop in?
And then we did see on the security footage, the one like kind of confirmed death, there was some kind of, one of the supe patients has some kind of force field power, a Lamplighter-esque kind of power, and we see him roast kind of 2 orderlies or security guards. And then Stormfront definitely led this week, as she's been probably leading for the season overall. 6 kills. She said that she killed 6 people in the cleanup of the breakout at Sage Grove.
I just killed 6 subjects out there like a teddy bear picnic.
I don't know what that means, but it's great. Yeah. And of course, she contributed to the killing of over 6 million Jews. So
so there you go. Yeah. Ultimately, no matter what, Stormfront killed the most people.
Yeah, a lot of blood on her hands.
A fascinating episode. I can't wait to see where it goes next week. Zach, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We got to go run some lines with Black Noir, but that is our show. And again, Tommy and Marina will be back next week and in future other things on the new Rockstars channel. They're good friends. Just because you don't see them here, it's like playing peekaboo with you folks sometimes. If they aren't in this episode, it means Philip is dead and in my trunk. They all still work here. It's just people are doing other stuff. And only Zach and I have the free time to be able to hop on camera this week, okay? But tune in every week for our reactions to the latest Boys episode here on the Boys Underground. And be sure to subscribe to Boys Underground on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a nice rating and review. It really helps us. If we could trend this, it'd be amazing. And it would help us do more after shows in the future for things like The Mandalorian, for WandaVision. We really love doing these immediate after shows in addition to like Easter egg breakdowns. So we love being able to do new formats. Helping Boys Underground blow up is a way you can help us do more things like that. Reminder to join our official Discord server by becoming a patron at patreon.com/newrockstars. Discord is where we're going to be fielding questions that we'll answer on the show. If we don't have time to discuss stuff on the show, we'll be talking about it on Discord. And we have some big fans of the boys who we love checking in with every week. So you can become one of them by joining us there. Follow me at EA Voss. Follow Zach at Z Huddleston. Follow New Rockstars on social. Subscribe here on YouTube to get too much information on all the stuff you care about, including the disgusting kills from people who are supposed to be good guys but are really just bad boys.
Bad boys.
See you next time. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks.